The police brought back a wayward girl from the night scene and asked her with ill intentions, "Who took your first time?" The girl, in a very flat tone, said it was her father. Behind this technologically advanced and bustling city lies hidden darkness and despair. The girl's name is Ballot. When she was 13, her father entered her room late at night. Later, her brother discovered everything their father had done. Filled with anger, he killed their father and was consequently arrested and imprisoned. Ballot, who lost her family, thus fell into the streets. To survive, she became a prostitute. In her darkest moments, a man named Shell appeared. He was the owner of a casino and promised Ballot everything she needed, as long as she obediently followed his commands. Ballot thought she had found someone to rely on, but little did she know that Shell was only using her to launder money. Even more unexpectedly, Shell is a psychopathic killer. The girls he killed were all turned into blue diamond rings worn on his hand. One day, he took Ballot to the wilderness. He told her that he would transform her into something even more beautiful. He then opened the car door and left, locking Ballot inside as toxic gas filled the vehicle. With her strength waning, Ballot struggled desperately, unable to even scream. Meanwhile, Shell sat in the car of his trusted henchman, Boyd, and drove away. In her dreamlike state, Ballot found herself floating in darkness. Suddenly, a voice emerged within her soul, presenting her with a choice between life and death. Afterward, Ballot awakened from a treatment capsule filled with a solution and realized she had been reborn. As she touched her arm, she felt electric currents coursing beneath her skin, and she discovered the ability to control electronic devices and machinery. A man appeared before her. He was Dr. Easter, who had been present during the incident, but was unable to stop Shell in time. He explained to Ballot that, in order to save her, he had resorted to forbidden scientific techniques to revive her. This was also her subconscious choice. Easter then revealed his reason for saving Ballot. He wanted her to help him testify against Shell in court. Ballot didn't give an immediate answer, but instead mentioned a cute golden mouse she saw in her unconscious state. Easter casually picked up a radio and smashed it, telling her that this was the mouse transformed. Sure enough, the remains of the radio in Ballot's hands turned into a golden mouse standing on its hind legs, politely greeting her. This mouse's name was Penon, possessing the ability to transform into anything. Ballot, using her consciousness, transformed Penon into a revolver. However, she aimed it at herself. Penon quickly stopped her and kept comforting her. This was the first time that Ballot had ever felt cared for. Meanwhile, Shell learned from Boyd that he had been charged by the prosecutor, and Ballot was the key witness. However, Shell had already forgotten everything. It turned out he needed to regularly extract and store his memories in a chip, or else his brain would deteriorate from the overwhelming amount of memories. Afterward, he instructed Boyd to eliminate Ballot. Easter asked Penon to accompany Ballot for some fun outside. Ballot drove along the streets, opening the car window to feel the salty sea breeze of the coastal city. She went shopping and bought things she liked, enjoying her favorite food. It was the first time in her life she had experienced happiness. Later, Penon told Ballot that in order to successfully prosecute Shell, they needed to provide the court with all her past information. However, digging up her old files brought back painful memories, and Ballot strongly resisted. She didn't want her ugly and shameful past to be exposed in front of everyone. Penon assured Ballot that it wouldn't force her to do anything if she didn't want to. Soon, danger approached as Shell sent assassins after Ballot. Penon instantly transformed into a wristband and guided Ballot to escape into an alley behind a building. Two assassins caught up with them, but with Penon's guidance, Ballot extended her right fist. In the next moment, a silver rod struck one of the assassins' throat, knocking him down, while the other was ensnared by electric wires and electrocuted. Ballot quickly drove away and managed to shake off the assassins in a chase. However, Boyd suddenly appeared, but with Penon present, he didn't dare to act rashly, as he knew the extent of Penon's power. Boyd threatened Ballot, telling her to give up on prosecuting Shell if she didn't want to die. After saying this, he simply left. Those words shattered Ballot's fragile courage. After all, she was just a 15-year-old girl. She arrived at the scene where she had almost lost her life, searching for the courage to persevere. Seeing Ballot in tears, Penon continuously encouraged her, sitting on her palm and then reaching out its small paw, wanting to fist bump with Ballot. Ballot gently kissed its forehead. Later, in the courtroom, Ballot regained her courage and calmly responded to the questions from Shell's lawyer. Despite these questions bringing back her past scars repeatedly, the trial was highly effective. But outside the courtroom, Boyd appeared once again. He tried to intimidate Ballot, but she was no longer afraid and mustered the courage to confront Boyd's threats. In order to eliminate Ballot once and for all, Boyd hired a group of top-notch assassins. These terrifying individuals were known for their brutality, and they never failed in their assignments. Moreover, they turned various body parts of their victims into collectibles. Easter realized the impending crisis and began training Ballot to better utilize Pention's abilities. With her exceptional talents, Ballot easily deflected all the incoming tennis balls, effortlessly bursting them. Shortly after, the assassins and Boyd found their hiding place. They took care of all the guards. One of the assassins rushed in first, and upon seeing Ballot behind him, he quickly fired his gun, but all of his bullets were deflected by Ballot. The next second, Ballot killed him. The other assassins asked what was happening. Ballot mimicked his voice and replied that everything was fine. Shortly after, she injured the assassin inside the elevator. The enraged assassin, unable to find his enemy, fired wildly and crashed through the blocking iron door, only to be mistakenly killed by their own companion. Faced with the bald-headed assassin charging at her with a knife, Ballot transformed Pention into a short blade, accurately meeting the assassin's blade. Then she pierced the assassin's chest, but soon after, the assassin exploded with a twisted smile. A violent shockwave swept over, but Ballot emerged unharmed, as Pention transformed into a protective sphere around her. At this moment, Ballot was immersed in immense power. In the parking lot, she easily took down the leader of the assassins, relentlessly shooting at him. It seemed as if she wanted to vent all her past pain and suffering through her bullets. At this moment, the gun she held in her hands twisted and deformed. Pention transformed back into a rat, suffering and vomiting. Then, struggling, it tried to leave her. Ballot's excessive use of Pention abilities causes Pention's self-defense system to resist. Just then, Boyd arrived. Pention quickly made Ballot escape to the rooftop. Ballot was no match for him now. Pention transformed back into a handgun, but all the bullets shot at Boyd were bounced back. It turned out that Boyd, like Ballot, was a monster created using forbidden scientific technology. He chased Ballot to the up off the building without slowing down. Pention endured its physical reactions and allowed Ballot to continue using it, but Ballot was afraid of it getting hurt again. Boyd approached. Ballot fought back with all her strength, firing all her bullets towards the elevator, but Ballot was clearly at a disadvantage. Injured and struggling, Pention crawled towards Ballot, but then Boyd shot it in half with one bullet. Pention urged Ballot to quickly use it. Finally, Ballot tearfully gripped the gun and raised it towards the approaching Boyd. Both sides' gunshots rang out simultaneously. Sparks flew in all directions. The bullets fired by Ballot all veered off course. At a crucial moment, Easter took control. A giant silver egg descended onto the rooftop. Ballot immediately fled into the silver egg. Boyd followed closely behind, barging in, but Ballot had already aimed his gun at him, and the unleashed bullets knocked him out of the silver egg aircraft. Shortly after, Ballot could no longer hold on and passed out. When Ballot woke up, he found himself in paradise, and this so-called paradise was the birthplace of forbidden technological advancements. Before Ballot stood a boy who spoke through the horn on his head, but Ballot only wanted to see Pention now. Inside a container filled with solution, a horrifying mass floated. Ballot knew that was Pention. Full of guilt, Ballot pressed his forehead against it and kept apologizing. Pention was a multi-dimensional being. Even when severely injured, it would quickly regenerate. However, Pention had a lifespan, and as long as it lived, its body would continue to grow, until one day it would be overwhelmed and die. Later on, the boy introduced his friend to Ballot. This dolphin was very friendly. It took Ballot on a tour of the underwater world. All the world's communication terminals were linked here. Ballot wanted to use the data here to uncover Shell's secrets, but this required the approval of the highest authority in paradise. At that moment, the boy arrived carrying a birdcage. Inside the birdcage was a human head. He was Professor Faceman, the highest authority in paradise. Faceman granted Ballot access to the data terminal. Subsequently, Ballot connected herself to the ocean's intelligence system. In her continuous search, she finally found Shell's past memories. Shell had stored his memories in his casino chips. Among the $12 million chips held his memories. Meanwhile, Boyd also led an assassin into Paradise to track Ballot down. The two split up and entered Paradise. Faceman had been waiting for Boyd at the entrance. Boyd pointed his gun directly at him. Bullets unleashed wildly, but they were all blocked by the gravitational barrier outside the birdcage. Even Boyd's arm holding the gun was controlled by Faceman. Meanwhile, another assassin was rampantly destroying everything in Paradise. The boy who came to stop him had his arms cruelly severed by the assassin, but the boy didn't cry out in pain. Instead, he smiled at him, because Paradise's defense mechanism had been activated. The Guardians of Paradise had arrived. Dozens of dark shadows swirling in the sky. Suddenly, a mechanical shark plunged down, ferociously biting the assassin and carrying him into the sky. Before long, a rain of blood poured down from the heavens. Boyd had no choice but to turn and leave Paradise. Simultaneously, a golden mouse crawled out of the repair chamber. After a lengthy restoration, Penon was finally reborn. Ballot, filled with guilt, hung her head, afraid to look at Penon. But Penon kept comforting her. With Penon by her side, Ballot slowly drifted off to sleep. The next day, Easter and Ballot decided to disguise themselves as gamblers and head to Shell's casino. They aimed to win the chips storing Shell's memories. Penon transformed into a glove, worn on Ballot's hand. They planned to win $4 million with $2,000. Ballot initially intended to use her electronic interference ability to manipulate the casino's gambling machines. But Penon promptly stopped her, as it would trigger the casino's security system. Above the gambling table, Penon utilized its exceptional card-counting skills to assist Ballot. It could also analyze their identities through the sense emitted by each person and their bodily movements. With Penon's help, Ballot amassed a large number of chips. Subsequently, Ballot approached the roulette area. As their chips continued to increase, they gained access to the high-stakes casino. At this moment, Shell also became aware of Ballot, so he sent the gambling king, Robert, to intervene. Later on, he even instructed Boyd to come and take them down. At this moment, Ballot was in the high-stakes casino, where she had won her first $1 million chip. Meanwhile, Penon covertly extracted the criminal memories from the chips, but Robert was a skilled gambler, using expert shuffling techniques to control the order of over 300 cards and challenge Ballot. They had already tied 16 times in a row. Easter stood up from her seat and gave all her chips to Ballot. Robert remained confident and continued to press his advantage. Penon, for a moment, couldn't find any flaws in Robert's play. However, after Ballot lost 8 times in a row, she suddenly, relying on her keen intuition, saw a glimmer of victory. She removed the glove that Penon had turned into, adjusted her breathing rhythm, and then, in the data vortex, she felt herself entering another world. She seemed to spot a flaw in Robert's perfect dealing technique. Subsequently, Ballot went all in with her $1 million gold chip. At the moment of revelation, the air in the entire casino seemed to freeze. In the end, Ballot emerged victorious. Robert praised Ballot's courage and skill. Shell and his boss also arrived. Simultaneously, Penon successfully extracted all of Shell's memories. Upon receiving Penon's message, Ballot nonchalantly returned the $4 million chips to the emotionally distraught Shell. However, as they drove away, Boyd caught up with them, and a fierce gun battle ensued immediately. Ballot seized the opportunity to hit Boyd's engine, successfully escaping, but she also fainted from her injuries. To bring Shell to justice as soon as possible, with Easter's help, Ballot entered Shell's memories. They needed to analyze Shell's memories to find evidence of his crimes. Ballot encountered a blonde girl, who seemed to be the first victim. Subsequently, Shell's memories continued to flash by, images of innocent girls killed by Shell appearing before Ballot. Then, a surgical scene emerged. A teenage Shell lying on the operating table, accompanied by the blonde girl, his first love. In his memory, Shell was also a pitiful person. He was tortured by his mother, and later he killed his own mother with his own hands. He made the first blue diamond from her ashes. Afterward, he underwent memory extraction surgery in an attempt to forget these painful memories. But Shell, who had lost his past memories, also forgot the girl he once deeply loved. Finally, that girl jumped into the river in despair, and from that moment on, Shell became even more insane. After obtaining all the evidence of Shell's crimes, Ballot successfully indicted Shell for all his wrongdoings in court. Shell was finally arrested. However, the criminal organization behind Shell, to prevent him from divulging information, bribed Boyd to eliminate Shell. Meanwhile, Easter pleaded with Ballot to protect Shell. Ballot hesitated, but ultimately agreed to Easter's request to safeguard Shell. When Ballot arrived, Shell had already fled. Finally, Ballot managed to locate Shell. He raised his gun excitedly at Ballot, and gunshots rang out. Shell was knocked to the ground. Ballot approached him slowly, squatting beside Shell. She then reached out and placed her hand on Shell's head, transferring his memories to him. The past memories flooded into Shell's mind, and he eventually broke down. At that moment, Boyd tracked them down. Ballot unleashed a barrage of bullets, but all of them were blocked by Boyd's gravitational shield. However, Ballot quickly identified Boyd's weak point and wounded him. Swiftly responding, Boyd also managed to hit Ballot. As Ballot hit the ground, Boyd threw a silver sphere at her. The electromagnetic waves released by the silver sphere caused Ballot excruciating pain. Penon immediately transformed into a sphere, enveloping her inside. Subsequently, Ballot launched a counterattack immediately, with a single shot shattering Boyd's left foot. However, in the next moment, he transformed the electromagnetic waves into a left foot to support his body. At that moment, Ballot fought even more bravely, propelling herself upwards as if flying in the air. Finally, Boyd was defeated. Everything came to an end.